Tulare County, California, specifically Goshen, where 2 weeks after shooters killed a teen mother, her 10-month-old baby, and 4 other members of her household, the suspects still remain at large. Authorities this week providing an update saying there's no motive for the attack in Central California, the Central California community there. They do believe that this is still going to be something they are considering gang related, but they didn't take many questions from reporters. It was their first time speaking since that January 16th shooting. The violence in that community of about 3,000 residents in the Central California area was the first of the 3 mass shootings in California this month. On Monday, yesterday, when we heard from the sheriff, they increased a reward there to offer more than $20,000 for information leading to the arrests of the suspects involved in this. Previously, that amount had been $15,000. Let's bring you that latest update from the sheriff in Tulare County.
Snap your W-2 and file Fed and State for free.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to follow up with what I had promised to do, is to keep you up to date as best I can with the status of this investigation. First, I'd like to touch on this morning or this afternoon in regards to the increase in our reward. We have a uniquely 20,100 reward. I want to speak to the $100. The $100 was written by a Mrs. Lackman out of Maine. And she writes a letter. And in this letter, she says that her heart was broken and she can't send much, but what she can send, she's sending. And she wrote a $100 check. So we have a $20,100 reward. I'm thankful to ATF, who has given $10,000 for the reward. We have $5,000 from Crime Stoppers. And we also have an additional $5,000 from a man out of New York, a private citizen. He does not want to be identified, and we will respect that. But he wanted to send $5,000 because of this case, broke his heart. We also have an additional $10,000 that is pending and will be coming in soon. We anticipate that we will be at $30,100 reward here very soon, if not by tomorrow or the end of the week. I did say during the original press conference that I would touch on the autopsies. I will touch on that today. All 6 victims died from gunshot wounds. I will reiterate, 16-year-old Alyssa Perez and 10-month-old baby Nicholas were both shot in the head. We did receive questions in regards to child welfare services in regards to baby Nicholas. I want to touch on those today so that you're informed. Baby Nicholas was originally taken from her mother 3 days after he was born and placed into foster care. He was taken at the Cahuilla Delta Hospital by Child Welfare Services at the time with an investigation from the Visalia Police Department. It was because Alyssa wasn't able to provide sufficient care. Alyssa was, however, allowed supervised visits once a month until January 13th, at which time she did receive full custody and care of Nicholas under the supervision of Child Welfare Services. Much has been talked about the cartel. I want to reiterate that this was a cartel-style execution. But I'm not saying it was the cartel, but I do want to touch on the cartel in showing a map system up here for you. We have 2 identified cartels operating up and down the state of California, one being the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, and the Sinaloa Cartel, both actively involved in operating in the state of California. As you can see in the mapping system, it shows the corridors up and down the state of California outlined in red. The distribution roadways through California, US Route 99, runs from Jalisco, Mexico to Blaine, Washington. Interstate 5 runs from Mexico all the way to Canada. Interstate 80 runs from San Francisco, California to New York, and US Route 50 runs from West Sacramento all the way to Ocean City. There are dozens and dozens of private general aviation airports through the Central Valley that are very vulnerable to the exploitation of drug traffickers. So it's important that you see that we do have cartels operating. Many of these cartels who work very closely with gangs. Gangs mostly operate in California and uniquely in the central San Joaquin Valley, closely associated with Mexican cartels. However, the investigators strongly believe that the shooters in this case are gang related from the Central Valley. But you can see the connections with the gangs are very high. Now, I will tell you that our investigators have been working day and night, literally 24 hours a day on this case. I will say that arrests will be made in this investigation. And once they are, this is a message that I'm asking and sending to Governor Newsom. I would like him to lift the ban on the death penalty in cases where small children are murdered. This should be a death penalty case. I do anticipate another press conference later in the week. I will keep you up to date as this case unfolds, because I can tell you it changes almost hourly. And there has been many twists and turns in this case. But the veteran investigators in this case, working alongside our federal counterparts, all of who you see up here today, feel very confident in this investigation. Typically, when we do these press conferences, I do open it up for questions and answers. And I open them up after I've finished. And that will not be the case today. Because of the sensitive nature of this case and how it is quickly unfolding, I'm not going to answer any questions at the time being, but I will tell you, we are very close. I don't want to say anything that would jeopardize not bringing these baby killers to justice. So, as promised in the initial conference that I would bring you up to date on the autopsies are complete. All 6 victims died of gunshot wounds. I am providing maps and heat maps of the cartel operations up and down the state of California in association with our gangs. There are hotspot maps to my left, your right, that show the association of gangs in and about the Central Valley of California and up and down the state of California, and the numbers of gangs that we have in connection. Our investigators do believe that there's a strong